I think that because the resident dog is expected to adjust and adapt, and the new dog coming in perhaps gets lots more fuss, lots more attention, lots more focus, I think that then you see a bit of a shift in the dynamic between them.
Yeah. So
and it is us that cause it.
What might you be looking for in those early days then to indicate that the dog is accepting the newcomer? What would you look out for?
Well, kind of depending on what I knew about the dog, but even when my third dog arrived, she had limited periods of time that she was with the two of them. So my two resident dogs, she wasn't with them all the time straight away. And, you know, they all appeared to get on quite well. So it wasn't that. But I was very, very careful, which I do with all of the dogs. If I'm bringing a dog in, I never ever just put them all together and hope that it'll all work out. So she was, you know, I would have her with my two. I wouldn't have her with my two when there was known flashpoints. So if there was something very exciting happening, or somebody coming to the door, or you know, a family member coming in, my dogs would have been separated from her, so that there wasn't this coming together of flashpoint. Now, what happens when dogs rarely, sometimes they do, but they rarely see each other and, you know, start fighting straight away. There's usually a little bit of kind of what's going on here, what
posturing.
Is all this?
Bit of posturing.
And of course, and what we get then is we get communication between the dogs. Now, remembering that we are not dogs, so we can't replicate this, and we often don't understand it. So when dogs do eventually get to the point of fighting, and they maybe can't even be in the same room as each other, that's not just happened.
No,
that has been building tension. And we can sometimes even trace that back to right at the beginning. And it might be that the resident dog growled at the newcomer, and the owner told the resident dog to stop doing that.
Or I'd go back further than that, and did they just give them a dirty look?
Yes, so it could be that, you know,
but what happens before?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it tends to be what humans notice. So they tend to notice the growl, or that, you know, there's a very obvious issue between the dogs, and they usually give the resident dog into trouble. So actually, you see this tension building and building and building. So my aim in the beginning was no excessive play. So they got out together when they were calm, and we did calm things, and they had a little play, and then I would distract them all, and I didn't let them do that mad play. A lot of time when people put dogs together and they say they're playing brilliantly together, that isn't play. They're becoming over aroused, and they're actually starting to bounce off of each other. And you can almost see them sort of like, how far can I go with you on this? So I didn't let them have really excited play, and I kept everything calm, and I really tried as much as possible to keep the routines the same for my existing dogs. But my third dog, she just was in amongst that routine. But they spent quite a bit of time with a baby gate between them.
I use a lot of segregation, a lot of managing spaces and which dogs are in which space. I find it invaluable with multiple dogs in the house, in a relatively small house, to
it's absolutely crucial. And I wasn't expecting any issues. I wasn't expecting that there would be trouble between the dogs, but I don't want to wait until there is trouble and then think, well, I've now got a problem. So giving them that definite, this is how we do things. We are calm. I was calm. I wasn't attempting to show Esme, my third dog, I wasn't attempting to show her that this was a wonderful house and I love you to bits and you're going to fit in here wonderfully. All I wanted her to know is you're quite safe here.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to happen that's going to make you worry. And I'm going to be really careful around, the management with the other two dogs. Because Esme is actually Ethel's sister. So they've been apart obviously for a long, long while. But Ethel's quite an excitable dog. She's quite a happy dog that she thinks that everything's wonderful. And Esme at the time was a worried dog because she was like, I'm now in some different place. And she was very submissive. She would even do quite a lot of submissive things to us. Like, as we, if I would say, "Are you okay, Esme?" And she would just wag her wee tail and her wee ears would go back. And even if one of the dogs, came over to her, she was very submissive. She's not like that with them now.
No.
But I did not want, my main thing for her was for her to feel safe and give her time. And people rush. They're so desperate to see whether these dogs will get along that they put them together. They have over exuberant play. And they go, isn't that great? They're loving each other. Look, they're chasing each other around the garden. They're going up on their hind legs and they're playing and oh, it's great. And oh, they're exhausted and it's wonderful. And then fast forward a few months and you've got clashes. Every time that one of the dogs is excited, you'll have a clash. So this is where it all comes from. Our rush to integrate them, but also to say, look, they're getting on, brilliantly.
I wonder as well whether some of it can come because people maybe aren't aware of the dog's body language in those early days, that it would, when you only have one dog, obviously you need to be aware of their body language in relation to how you work with them and how they're feeling. But then you add in a whole load more information you can gain by careful observation of the dog with the two of them together or the three of them together, so that you can address issues or cap it off before it develops. And I wonder sometimes if we can get a little bit blinkered because we have been invested in having this particular dog. The dog chose me or I chose the dog and I so want it to be this dog. And so it's outside of our thought that it might not work. And we're so focused on wanting it to work that we maybe are a little bit blinded to the signs that there are issues we need to work on in order to help it work. And so we don't see it because we're too busy thinking, oh, isn't it wonderful? I love this dog that I've now added to my home, where in actual fact, perhaps we need to look at it a little more objectively rather than through those rose-tinted glasses.
And I think the other thing that's really important to think about is just because your dog plays in the park and gets on with every dog that they meet when they're out on their walk, living with another dog, sharing resources, sharing space is a different thing entirely. And I remember once years ago I worked with a lady with a terrier. And it was a nice, he was a nice wee dog. And I remember her saying to me, he just loves bigger dogs. He can be horrible to smaller dogs, but he loves bigger dogs. And I said, are you sure that he loves them? Oh, yes, it loves them. And then when I watched him, he was petrified. He was the smaller dog. He was like ready to say, don't you dare come near me. But the bigger dog, he was too intimidated. So he would roll over and he would lick round their mouths and he would be very submissive. But that was read as being because he was licking round their mouth. And he wasn't. you know, he wasn't being vocal to the bigger dogs, that must be that he liked them. And actually, he was really worried about the big dogs. He was really petrified of them. So I think that sometimes is the way that people perceive something like a dog licking around another dog's mouth, a dog rolling over, or the dog, you know, it's only when we see things, most people, it's when we see things that we think is linked to aggression, that most people start to worry. But it started way before that.
All the things before. I'm interested in what your thoughts are on how to deal with conflict should it start to arise, because there are very much two schools of thought on this. There's one school of thought that says you need to leave them to sort it out, let them figure it out between themselves, dare I say it, they need to establish the pecking order. And then there's the opposite to that, which is I will deal with it and I will establish what I consider acceptable manners, and this is how you are allowed to behave with each other. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think my feeling with it is that if I manage the environment, then the dogs can have a lower level conversation that can go on without me needing to actually interfere. If I allow a situation where it's going to escalate, then I would rather err on the side of caution and distract them than just wait and hope that it didn't, you know, go forward into a fight. Now, we talk about a lot, I see it in my daycare, you know, we sort of laugh sometimes because we'll say that somebody's, you know, it's handbags at dawn. You know, you can see that they're both going for a toy and they'll both go like at each other. And it was never ever going to escalate. Never. But it's just that they were both just, you know,
all mouth and trousers or whatever.
Exactly. The problem there is that requires you to know the dogs, and it also requires that you can tell whether there was a build up of tension. Now, I've got other dogs that come here for boarding, and I maybe don't have them together around a resource at all, because I know that one of them might be very, very, this is my ball. And other dogs might go, well, keep your ball. You know, we don't care. And they might back down, but I might know another dog as soon as that first dog says, this is my ball, the second one will say, oh, you think so? And then you know, there would be words. So I'm managing that to say, well, I'm not going to let that happen. You know, I'm not going to wait till it happens and then break them up. I'm going to say, well, that's not going to happen on my watch, you know. And if a dog is particularly resource guarding around toys, for instance, then they can be with other dogs, but there will not be a toy around, you know. So I'm managing that as much as I can. Of course, sometimes dogs can get, you know, antsy about things that we don't expect. So the key thing is, when you look at the dogs, you should be able to tell in the very first few seconds whether it's going to escalate, because you will see if one dog does the, you know, hard stare or the posturing, what does the other dog do? Now, the other dog might just flick their eyes to the side, or they might actually turn their head. Now, there we've got a clear sign that one of the dogs is trying to, you know, I don't really want to join in this. They might not move away, but it's like, I don't want to join in on this. If you've got two of them doing the same thing, as in hard stare, not moving much, being very focused, you have got the start of a problem. And no, I wouldn't let those dogs sort it out, because somebody's going to get hurt. And the other thing is that those two dogs, that is only ever going to escalate when they see each other again.
Yes.
They could possibly pick up where they left off the next time. So the aim for me is about saying, first of all, know the dogs and try to avoid something from happening. So the likes of, I've got some really good videos of my dogs, and Ethel, one of the girls, it doesn't matter which toy Eric picks up, she'll run over and take it off of him every single time. You know, he goes and he picks a toy up, she's over, grabs it, runs off with it. Eric just most of the time goes like, I'll go get another toy, I don't care. I've got videos of where he changes and it's, no, I'm keeping this toy. Now, when I've looked at the video, it's really interesting because what changes is he doesn't turn to face her. He doesn't do the stiff, starey eye things that we expect. But what he'll do is he does wag his tail as well. His tail is wagging. But what I can see, and my dogs are hairy, but what you can see is that these eyebrows are moving. And then when I look at Ethel, she goes to take the toy and there's no like grabbing or mouthing or anything like that. And then you see her sort of look at him and he continues to do that.
The eyebrow.
And then she just looks away and goes off and he keeps the toy.
Yeah.
So there's not clearly, when she rushes at him and grabs the toy, he can stop her from doing that.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, he doesn't care. But when he does want to keep it, the discussion between them isn't aggressively posturing, this is mine. So when we are looking for stuff, we tend to look at when it escalates a bit. And we see that the dogs are both posturing. Or maybe we don't see that at all, and what happens is the dogs just come together and start. The problem there is that there had been missed opportunities before.
Yeah, but it is a fascinating subject, and we could talk so much longer on this, but I think we need to bring it to a close. So thank you again for being here for this discussion, Dale. It's been really interesting. And if anyone would like to ask any questions, then do let us know in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them for you.
Great. That's brilliant. Thank you for having
me. Look out for new videos every Monday, and why not subscribe so you don't miss out?